In the last video, I traced the hurt child back to a 6-year-old sitting on a pavement, alone, watching his father walk away from a bicycle that had become too much trouble. I told you that memory didn't come up by accident, and there was a specific process that brought it to the surface, and that I'd explain it in this video. So let's start at the beginning, because before we can talk about the process, we need to talk about why memories like that one stay buried in the first place. Carl Jung called it the shadow. From the time we're very young, we learn what parts of ourselves are acceptable and what parts aren't. Maybe you were told that anger was dangerous, so you buried your anger. Or needing things was weak, so you buried your neediness. Maybe you were praised so much for being the smart quite one, so you buried your playfulness and chaos, because those parts didn't fit the role you were given. Whatever got buried didn't disappear. It became your shadow. The parts of you that you couldn't consciously hold were pushed down, where they've been running the show from backstage ever since. And here's what most people miss. The shadow doesn't only contain the, quote, negative stuff. It contains anything that got rejected, including gifts, passions, and even joy, if joy was once met with punishment or dismissal. Joy can end up in the shadow too. The shadow isn't a trash can. It's a storage unit, full of things you couldn't carry at that time. The clearest signal that shadow material is active is projection. When someone does something minor and you feel something completely disproportionate, rage, contempt, or envy, that intensity is almost never really about them. It's about what they're mirroring back at you. Jung put it plainly. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And in the context of manifestation, the shadow is one of the most powerful hidden blockers there is, because you cannot hold a coherent signal while parts of you are disowned. A fractured self sends fractured energy, and fractured energy creates fractured results. Shadow work is the process of turning toward those exiled parts and bringing them home. Over the years, I've worked through a lot of these processes. NLP techniques, guided meditations, somatic practices, visualization frameworks from various teachers. Most of them gave me some insight and some temporary relief. But there is one process that actually had an effect in a way nothing else did, and created a real shift, not just understanding. And I want to walk you through it now, step by step. Before I do, something important about how I use this process, because it might change how you approach it too. Some people can access deep emotional states on demand. They sit down, set an intention, and drop straight into the feeling they want to work with. If that's you, that's a real gift. I am not that person. For me, the only way I can genuinely access these buried emotions with no resistance is when I'm already in them, when I'm triggered or something has already cracked me open and the feeling is right there at its peak. So in practice, this is the process I almost always reach for when I'm at my worst. Not because it requires suffering to work, but because that's when I have the least resistance to feeling my emotions. And I've come to see that as a gift. Because the teacher whose work this is based on talks about how she and her team get genuinely excited when a trigger shows up. Because a trigger isn't a problem, it's an invitation. Basically, your system is saying, here is something unresolved, a doorway, and it is your chance to make it better. But remember, that's personal. It's not a requirement. You can do the process on any state, as long as you can access the feeling and the emotion. Now, how do we do the process? Before you begin, you need to create two things in your imagination. A safe haven, a place where you feel completely at peace, real or invented. A forest, a house, a shoreline. The place should feel like safety without needing explanation, and must have a body of water, like a small pool or anything like that. We will need it for the last step in the process. Personally, what felt best for me when I started to do this work was a house with a green backyard on the mountain with a swimming pool facing the view, toys, basketball hoop, and football goal. The second thing you need to keep in mind is a safe support figure. Sometimes during these sessions, the child may need someone or something that represents unconditional support. You will not always need to use it, but keep it in mind. The support figure can be a person, a wise presence, an animal, or even a light. Someone completely safe and completely on your side. In some sessions, you may feel called to leave the child with this figure by the end of a session, or even pause the session and leave this figure with the child in the memory. This figure can be you as well, the grown-up you or any version of you that you feel called to have there. You can stay as a copy of you during or by the end of the session. I know it seems weird, but it will make sense when you start practicing this work and get used to feeling your inner child needs during the sessions. You build the safe haven before you go into the work, and you can modify it as you go. Every session can add what needed later on. Step 1. Emotional Vipassana. Presence. When something has triggered you, the feeling is alive in the body right now. You don't try to fix it or run from it. You locate it, breathe into it, and give it your complete attention without trying to change it. Think about it as the flavor of the emotion. See if you can name the feeling. Step 2. Emotional validation. You acknowledge that this feeling makes sense. It has a right to be here. You are not going to push it away. You say that to yourself, and you mean it. Step 3. Invite the memory. With the feeling fully present, you ask one question. When was the first time I felt this exact feeling? You don't think your way to an answer. You let something surface, like a place, a face. Trust whatever arises, even if it seems too small. The subconscious knows where it's pointing. Step 4. Re-experience the memory. When the memory surfaces, you observe it. Take your time to be fully present with the intensity of what that moment felt like. You emotionally re-enter it from the child point of view. Don't rush past it. Step 5. Validate the feeling within the memory. Just as you validated the present feeling, you now give the emotion inside the memory the same message. I am completely with you. I see you as valid. I care about you. I am ready to receive everything you have to say. Step 6. Step into your adult perspective within the memory. When you feel ready, you shift. Move from living the memory from the child's point of view to actively entering it. You are now your adult self inside the scene, present with the child. This is where the real work begins. Step 7. Validate the child's emotions. You go to the child and offer comfort, affection, and unconditional focused presence with one thing in mind: validation. You give the child the message that it is right to feel what they feel, and they have full permission to feel it completely. If you feel unequipped to do this, and it is overwhelming, that is exactly what your safe support figure is for. You bring them into the scene and let them do this for the child while you find your footing. Step 8. Await relief. You don't push for resolution. You simply stay and wait for the child to naturally begin moving in the direction of relief. And keep in mind, some children just need to know you will stay, that you are not leaving, and you will be there as long as it takes. That itself is sometimes the whole work. Step 9. Call back other fractured aspects of self. You look around the scene. Are there other parts of you that fractured off in this same moment? Other aspects that went into hiding at the exact same time? You call them back, lovingly, and you work with them individually until you merge them into the core child self, so you are working with a one whole child. Step 10. Meet the child's needs within the memory. When the child feels validated and is ready to move forward, you take action. Find what need is not being met, and you meet it. This is where creativity matters. You can say things to your child self that they needed to hear, Or you can stand up for them, protect them, rescue them, and change what happened. Above all, trust the child to know what they need. Let them lead. Step 11. Choice to stay or go. When relief has come, something in the memory has shifted. Here you give the child a choice: to stay in the memory or to come with you to the safe haven. If the child chooses to stay, you ask why, you listen, and you repeat steps 9 through 11 as many times as needed, checking each time for any remaining fractured aspects still stuck in the scene. Here, you must trust the child completely. If they need someone to stay with them, you leave an aspect of yourself or your safe support figure there, and never rush this. Step 12. Enter the safe haven and deactivate the memory. When the child is ready to come, you bring them to the safe haven, and as you arrive, you close the memory, shrink it, burn it, pop it like a balloon, whatever feels true. It no longer needs to be held open. Step 13. Purification and healing. You place the child in the healing water of the safe haven. Remember the body of water we spoke about earlier. You bathe them in it as a purification ritual, a symbolic ending of the life they just lived inside that memory. The child drinks the water too. This is how they begin their new life here. Clean, held, arrived. Step 14. Meet the child's needs within the safe haven. Whatever the child still needs, you meet it here. In this safe space, you stay until the session feels genuinely complete. Not just finished, but complete. Step 15. Option to stay or merge. The child is given one final choice: to stay in the safe haven or to merge back with you to become part of your adult self again, like a puzzle piece returning to its place. If they choose to stay, you embrace that fully. If they choose to merge, you let them. You feel them come back as you welcome them home. Step 16. Return to conscious perspective. Slowly, a few deep breaths, you bring your consciousness back to real time. Take your time here. Your body needs a moment to process what just integrated. Be gentle with yourself as you return. This process is called the completion process, developed by Teal Swan. If this resonated, I genuinely encourage you to read her book on it. What I've shared here is a map. The actual territory is something you have to walk yourself. Now let me tell you what this looked like with the bicycle memory. When I followed that heaviness I felt before matches, I went back home. Out of devastation, I started doing the process. That scene surfaced almost immediately. 6 years old, on the pavement, watching my father get smaller as he walked away, not understanding what I had done wrong. What I found inside that memory was a child who had concluded that something was fundamentally broken in him, that he was too slow, too dumb to learn, a burden to his father. And that conclusion became a program, running silently in every area of my life where performance was involved. I stepped into the scene as my adult self. I sat down next to him on the pavement. I didn't try to explain what happened or tell him it would be fine. I just stayed, until he stopped waiting for me to leave too. When he was ready, we talked. I explained to him how my grandfather was tough on my father, and my father is trying to do his best from what he knows. He is trying to push us to be the best, like his father did to him, and from his point of view, it worked. I validated his feelings and explained that he's not the issue, and an adult should never treat a child like this. But life happens, and after some time, some back and forth, he needed a hug, and then we moved to the safe haven. I closed that road behind us, and I let the water do what water does. It washed over him, cleaned over everything my father left behind when he walked away. Then he drank it, and something that had been lodged in my chest for more than 30 years began to dissolve. When I came back to the present, the memory had the same facts, but it no longer had the same charge. That is what completion actually means. The event doesn't disappear, but the wound finally closed. Okay, this is where the series ends. We started with why manifestation blocks happen, moved into parts work theory, did a live session, And now this. The through line is always the same. You cannot think your way to wholeness. You have to go back and give the parts of you that got left behind exactly what they needed then. That is the work, and it changes everything. So, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me about your experience with this. What showed up? What are you trying to integrate? I read every single one. And now, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.